The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you. With you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Nephew. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat above us. There will be it's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride on this Tuesday, May 23rd, Wednesday, May 24th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you had a great day and night. We are live right here at Uncle Jimbo's Cabin, right here in the Great White North, as we are here 7 days a week. We welcome in our terrestrial radio stations, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio in Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. So if you're listening in on the Double R machine, remember, it's a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. If you like our theme music, you can thank our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, if you're on social media, give us a follow on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide.fm, TalkStream Live, Player.fm, and Stitcher. Our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com. And if you head over to Patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of SOR as well. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you have to do me a favor. Sign into one of our chat rooms. You can go to our website, click on Listen Live, we'll get you there. Also, on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or if you're a valued member of the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook. Or if you head over to Twitter, what you can do there is use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. Now, if you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. It's that simple. And right now, go to our store, just like Rahonda did, Spaced Out Radio Store. Pick up a t-shirt, pick up a poster, or a sticker. Soon we'll have Carl the Alien candles there for you as well. And while on our website, while you're perusing around, check out the Encounter Online. It's a great news section put together by Eric Markham and Everett Themer. Check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. We want to hear from you. Tonight, we bring back a couple of guests, but this time, it's in tandem. You've heard their voices before. Bret Colin Sheppard and Ken Johnston are here tonight as we take a trip into the realm of conspiracy. Bret is a researcher who for years has been studying the possible architecture of structures on the moon. Have aliens been there? Are we in current contact? If so, who is hiding the secrets to what's going on? What do the governments of the world know, and what are they keeping us from? Ken Johnston is a NASA whistleblower. He may not like that title. I sure do. Just sounds so special and real. You know, he gives us the insight of being a NASA employee. What was covered up? What wasn't? The questions, though, do keep piling up. And really, it's only when people like Ken and Bret stand up and speak their knowledge is when we, as the common citizen, get just a little peek of what's going on behind the veil. Ken Johnston, Bret Sheppard, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, Dave. We're doing great. Thanks for having us on.
Doing great. Thank you.
Not a problem. You know, gentlemen, when we brought you on separately last month, it's really cool this month to have you both on at the same time because it's exciting. I mean, the knowledge that you guys pack in your research, is it ever, Bret, one of those stories that is going to end? Is there an answer to these questions that us as human beings are ever going to get about what is out there beyond what we see in the stars?
Yes, there will be an answer, and it'll come from the community. It's hardly going to come from our governments or people that have clandestine agendas. These agendas have been going on for centuries. They covered up the SR-71 Blackbird for 40 years, and that's literally a fly-by-wire aircraft that is really no big deal. It's sort of something that hides what's actually there in the secret space program. So yes, we will find out exactly what's going on. I know that I've gone as far as to say that without any doubt that there are bases, there are aliens on the moon.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Bret. After all that you've found in my archive, and you've got down in records, and now you got it out to the internet. I think, Dave, one of the the biggest things that I'm seeing going on right now is, and I like to compare it to a tsunami. And it's not just going in land at one place. It's in fact that I just had a dream about this last night, and it was looking at the Pacific Ocean and a tsunami going in all different directions towards land masses. And the tsunami is made up of all the experiencers and people that have had direct contact and what have you, and true actual knowledge of extraterrestrials and what's going on. And then up on the top of the crest, as this wave's coming in all around all the land around the world, it's coming in, and to the point that the governments can't hide it anymore. They can't, say, oh, that's just swamp gas. They're going to have to stand up and say, well, we were trying to protect the people because the people have grown up, and we're ready to handle it now.
Do you think, though, as we lean towards closer to disclosure, Ken, there's a lot of people out there who absolutely want to know what's going on. They need to know. Maybe they're experiencers, maybe they are just curious. But where I get hesitant about the whole disclosure topic is when we get together, and I see it just on this end with people and their reaction. There are people who are absolutely terrified about the idea of disclosure. There are people who are absolutely freaked out that this could be a possibility, whether it's religion, whether it's their own personal beliefs, whether it's because they drink every cup of coffee their government tells them. And I'm not just saying that in the United States. It's everywhere. And I think about all these people who are just going to lose it. And I'm not sure that society is ready for the quest for aliens when we have so much going on here right now where we don't know which way is up.
Well, I can appreciate that. And I'm reading this document that actually was written by Dr. Greer, and there was a particular item in it that I read just today, and it talked about how even the nuclear age and the fact that we actually detonated over 2 cities, the whole world now has accepted the fact that, yes, there's nuclear war. The whole key there was that societies are able to handle information that they get the truth. But if they have to let their imagination run wild, that's where it gets difficult to control and also difficult to for the people to deal with. It went on to what I was reading. Actually, it went on. I think it's called the Undisclosed or something like that. But the people are really ready to handle things like that. And where where Bret and I have gone, and the people we've talked to at different events and things, I don't find that many people like it was 20 some odd years, or I should say, oh God, that's 47 years ago. Excuse me, when we landed on the moon. The people themselves have matured. Biggest thing that they're pushing down, we have to understand, is as a species, we're going to have to get away from that fear and hate and attitude that is prevalent amongst Homo sapiens on the planet. We need to learn to love and care, and then I think that's the main reason why. The fact that came from the part that said why we were told and warned off, don't return to the moon because you're not ready yet. As a society, we're not when we go in with our guns loaded and ready to shoot first, instead of find out who's good and who's bad.
I understand that, but there's a lot of people who will get trigger happy over the first sight of a big UFO hovering over their town or city. That's
what I'm talking about, though. We may not. I don't think it's not going to be like Contact, the movie Contact, where they had the big giant ship come in and doing bad things. It's been going on now for years and years, and hundreds of years, and it's been on the individual level of contact, and that's one of the things that I've been learning more about since I've been dealing with Bret and a lot of the other people and going to these conventions and things, is that disclosure for them is what they're ready for. Those that want to hide their head in the sand, yes, you're right. They're going to have a little trouble coming to grips of it, but that's something we're going to have to deal with. Otherwise we're stuck right here in 250 miles above the Earth and low Earth orbit instead of a spacefaring species. We're going to have to grow up.
Is it that?
Yeah, I think...
Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just wanted to interject a little bit. We are facing not only a disclosure of extraterrestrials, which is a lot easier for people to handle, actually, because they believe in angels and demons and devils and all this. They were indoctrinated since birth into all of these belief systems. Now, the thing is that isn't unreal to them. What they're really afraid of is a crash of the financial system, a crash of their religion, something to that nature. And what I mean is the construct of religion. I don't mean someone's spirituality or individual belief system, but yeah, they're very much afraid of a system crashing. Especially the dollar or something that they've relied on all their lives as a trade system. So these are one of the things that that can come out very easily in a human way to disclose what they've been doing, greed-wise and all that with the financial system, and fix those problems that are extraordinarily human. And I don't think the alien thing would even be an issue.
Yeah, I think, Dave, also, if you look at it from the standpoint of ancient history, and I know that Bret is a tremendous expert in that, and I've learned so much in the past year and a half, 2 years, is that when you take a look at the ancient Sumerians and further back in that, and you compare what they had, you look at what the translation of the Sumerian text and things, you start looking at that, and you start comparing that to the history in the Bible, and I am a scholar in that, it all starts meshing together. And I think that's how we're going to bring society into acceptance that, yes, the religions can still be there, but they have to understand what the real truth was, what that brought it in. Whereas as most faithfuls believe that they know the absolute truth. That's why we have so much conflicts with all the different religions around. But they're going to have to accept the fact that part of it is true. Part of it is confused. And we need guidance, and by keeping an open mind and taking a serious look at things, then we can understand exactly where we came from as human beings, exactly what's going on this planet. And more, in fact, I think the Pope came out last year and said that there is bound to be intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. Well, that's a big step for the Catholic Church, but it's also a big step for people. So I don't think it's going to be quite as difficult as you might think it is, and I'm anxious to get started on it.
With the Pope coming out and saying what he did in regards to he believes that alien life is out there, and we all know about the Lucifer program they have going down in New Mexico, where you are. I don't know how close you are to that project that the Catholic Church is putting on. But do you think that with the Pope saying what he did, Ken, that opens up the whole Pandora's box of the 1.3 billion Catholics now saying, well, maybe we should be looking up at the stars?
A lot of that's, in fact, that part of the book I'm reading, they get into that because one of the priests was disclosing a little bit of information about what they have in the Catholic Church's library over in where is that at? Huh? The Vatican. Thank you. Now, I have to explain something real fast here. 3 weeks ago, I was in an auto accident. We had this young lady with a cell phone. By the way, people, do not use your cell phones when you're driving. We had to stop at a T intersection because cars were coming by, and thank God my wife put the truck we drive into park. But this gal was looking at her cell phone, and she rear-ended us at about 30 miles an hour, and we both are suffering from a little bit of whiplash, and I'm having a problem with that short-term memory. So if you hear me stammering and stuttering a little bit, I hope you have a little patience. I haven't lost my mind. It's just that it's frustrating as all get out to have to deal with something like that. So next Monday, I'll go in, and they're going to literally do a scan and find out if I do have a brain inside this bucket. So I hope they're going to find out it still works. So be a little patient with it.
You know what? I need to actually put out a word of caution, too, because up in my area, up until about an hour before the show, there was a major power outage. We're getting winds up to 60 miles an hour up here tonight, along with thunder and lightning. So I just want to forewarn the audience that if all of a sudden we lose the show, it's because my power went out. I do broadcast out of my studio that I built here at home, beautiful Uncle Jimbo's cabin, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that just in case something happens, it's not aliens, it's not the secret government shutting us down, it's Mother Nature. So there we go. I just want to clarify that. It does happen. Can't control the storms. But that's okay. Brett, do you feel, looking back at the Vatican, do you feel... and a lot of people are still uncomfortable with this, that the Vatican may have made a kind of a poor name choice for Lucifer for their telescope project?
Well, Lucifer literally means the morning star. It means Venus. And it really, that's the esotericism behind what most people think that are fundamentalist Christians. They think Lucifer means that literally a devil or something. Even the Catholic Church knows in history that that's a made-up bunch of crap, basically. So, them naming their satellite Lucifer would mean that they're, looking at stars. So it's one of their names of a star, basically. They probably, yes, they intended it to sound somewhat evil, that they're looking out in space for these alien heathens, So they did have probably that spin on it. The thing is that the Catholic Church knows aliens exist because they communicate with them all the time. They're satellites on the moon, according to a friend of ours. He works on them. So there's these satellites are relay dishes, he said, that communicate with extraterrestrials that they've been in communication with since 1924, when they invented the Tesla radio telescope and pointed out in space Ursa Major at the beginning, where they were actually, that's the Bear constellation, by the way. And when they pointed it out there, they received a communication back in somewhat of a Morse code, and they, I believe this was Jenkins that actually did this type of communication. Him, the one that one of the ones that invented the television, and this other guy. And they pointed the radio telescope out there, and they got, they started getting ticks and beeps from space. And they actually established a communication with these beings in Ursa Major, and basically that our world, means a certain thing, and man means a certain thing. We are human means a certain thing, and they are Martian or whatever they may be. So they actually labeled consistently these things that they sent out in space in a type of a Morse code. So since 1924, we've at least been communicating with them through Morse code. And that developed later, into more, more sophisticated dealings with the extraterrestrials out there. Apparently, some of them were from Zeta Reticuli or something like that, and we had an exchange program, which which is what Close Encounters of the Third Kind was based on, the landing in Socorro and all that. Now, the thing is, as far as the Vatican, they know for a fact, so does our military, that there's extraterrestrials. They've been communicating with them, and the extraterrestrials have been communicating with everyone on Earth in a graphic format, either in their dreams or in patterns in nature. So everyone has been communicating with these extraterrestrials out there. Some of them are us. Some of them look funny, but the interesting thing is the ones that come to Earth are bipedal. they know that they need a bipedal spacesuit to deal with the gravity on Earth. Now, the thing is, that's not their true form. When you go out there in space, they could be a squid or an insect or anything else. So it's a very interesting thing that they really cherish the idea of coming to Earth and living this type of human experience. So a lot of the ones, you know, that Eisenhower met on the runway, these guys that popped in and out of reality and so forth, needed a host. They basically were an interdimensional consciousness, but they needed a host. So that was the deal, that they could take samples, you know, whether it was blood or tissue or whatever, from people and create a host, a human body. And the thing is that the MyLabs from the military and from the secret programs, SRI and all that, were actually doing the bad things, the abductions and all of these things. The extraterrestrials are just kind of trying to follow the rules of who they think our leaders are, just like we are. So in a way, this is the main idea. We do not have rogue type of extraterrestrials that even want to bother to that extent to kill us, or they would have.
I get that, and I can appreciate that, and I can say that as someone who has had positive ET encounters, because my encounters have been pretty good so far in the few that I have had. But there are a lot of people out there who will not buy that story. They want to be able to say, this is evil, I've had the experience, there's nothing good that comes from ET contact, we need to stay away from space, let us be on our own planet, we don't want them here, and if they are here, let's rid this planet of this infestation. There's a lot of people out there like that, Bret, who just will not or cannot open up to the fact that aliens, like people, some are good, but some are bad as well.
Well, their perception is absolutely necessary. It's like a firewall, you know. They've been indoctrinated in religious ideas and constructs, you know, that are very earthly. They're not exactly, you know, they're not exactly for everyone. But the different perceptions that human beings have about an extraterrestrial, whether it be you know, a God out there, or the Great Spirit, or whatever we consider extraterrestrial. It's like a firewall. It's the idea of a three-dimensional, non-spiritual extraterrestrial that's coming to Earth or something like that. These fears are basically coming from the religious construct and the. It's not even the social construct. I mean, you know, we see that all the time in movies and all. But the religious thing, they would tell you that anyone that believes in these things are of the devil and are witches or need to be burned at the stake or something. And this is the same ideology, you know, that came up through New Mexico when New Mexico was settled. The Spanish conquistadors came through here, and that's exactly what their religious people did, is that they persecuted the Indians that were here, the Pueblo Indians, and they started burning them at the stake because they were, you know, praying to Kachina gods and all that. And they had no understanding of it, is the problem, you know. And it's the same idea with the extraterrestrials. A religious construct is always going to be doing adversary creation, so they need an adversary to even validate their own religion.
Ken, I want to bring you in. Ken, I want to bring you in here for a second because Mike in the chat room has a great question. He says, "Didn't different governments make different deals with aliens for the rights to do what they are doing to us? Then?"
Well, I know that Eisenhower made the initial deal. And you have to understand the environment that the world was in. World War II, it was just ended, and we had just released, you know, nuclear weapons, and Eisenhower chose to go with, as I understand, I could be wrong, Bret can straighten me out here, the Greys, and made agreements to allow a certain amount of people to be abducted for their experiments, all kinds of things. but this was in order to have America have the most advanced technology and be ready to protect the democratic way of life that we've established here, which we've just about lost. I hate to say it, but at any rate, so the problem we run into is that people don't want to. Well, you're going to have to help me here, Brett, because I'm having one of these memory losses. I think he just went in the other room. Sorry about that. Dave, you can help me out a little bit with that too, probably, because we're in a bad situation where we've got ISIS coming around and they're destroying our histories and things, and that's important. How can we know where we're going if we don't know where we've been? It's real simple to say it that way, but in fact, that's true.
No, and I can fully understand that, Ken. And we do know, I mean, let's face it, we don't know for a fact, but we really want to make sure that conspiracy of Eisenhower has some validity, to it. I tend to believe the story. I've talked to numerous people off the record, not on the show, and even on the show, actually, about Eisenhower's deal. And there's a couple of different stories about that as well, is that, yes, he met aliens at a California Air Force base. Then there was two sets of aliens, one offering saying, I'll give you the answers to life and everything, but no more nuclear weapons. And then the other one said, well, we don't really care about the nukes. We just want some people for technology. So when it comes to that Eisenhower story, what's the real story as far as you know?
Well, personally, I'm almost old enough. I was born in 1942. In fact, I'm going to give you a little quick story here that, believe it or not, Eisenhower was only a full bird colonel at Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas. And my dad was a captain in bomber training. He had just gone out of fighter training. And maybe Eisenhower and Dwight Eisenhower would play bridge with my wife and my mother and my father. And I had just been born in 1942, and they were at the house playing bridge. And back in the old days, people don't realize, but the moms kept the babies pretty close to them all the time. So here comes time. Mother said she was going to get some coffee, and so she picked me up, getting ready to go get the coffee. And Ike says, "Here, I'll hold him for you." And Mother goes out and gets coffee and comes back in, and Eisenhower is holding me out real far away from him. He says, "I think he sprung a leak." Well, we didn't have Pampers then, so I have the privilege of saying that I probably went on with a guy who became the first one of the presidents of the United States. So I do have a connection to Eisenhower. Not quite the connection you were looking for. But now people that I have talked with in my age bracket, a little bit older, that are connected to and have knowledge of that meeting. And I'm personally a complete, total believer in that, and particularly in the documents that I've been reading recently. There have been people who have given deathbed confessions, so to speak. So the information is still coming out about that. The decision he made for the time that was going on in the world at that time, that seemed to be the most logical decision to make. Although now we can look back and say, wow, maybe we could have, the world could have grown into a peaceful species on the whole planet Earth a little better and quicker if we hadn't gone for the strength and power. In other words, we're going to maintain peace because we've got the biggest hammer, in this case, nuclear. That's kind of the road that we took. And back to why we weren't allowed to return to the moon is because we have not grown up as a species. We still want to shoot first and ask questions later. I hope we're making progress.
Well,
go
ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that peace was not an option, when you have a military man, who's the president right after Nazi Germany, I mean, this is something that's not possible or conceivable in this time period, to get rid of all the weapons, to get rid of all the nukes and everything else. It was inconceivable because there is something called military insecurity. And this insecurity is a paranoia that's for they believe for stability and continuity. So if they take away those things, then they're leaving themselves wide open, and that was their mentality back then, is that, somebody could come in, the Russians or anybody else at the time could come in and obliterate us, because they lied and they didn't get rid of their weapons, or somebody lied, or this or that. So there was a lack of trust as far as a big plan to get rid of all of the weapons and such. Well, the extraterrestrials, guess what? They solved that problem for us, so we probably would have blown ourselves up. They started disabling, nuclear sites. The Peacekeeper missile, which Ken can talk about, would go up, and he actually saw the videotape of that.
Yeah, and there's a little more to do that too, Brett. And that was when we, during the end of the Apollo, we're talking about sending a nuclear weapon to explode on the moon. And that particular craft that was on its way to the moon to detonate, we wanted to see what it would do to the moon. But then that craft was intercepted by extraterrestrials, and it was detonated before it got to the moon. So, and that's been documented, and I'm just looking at the documents and reading about it just today. So there's a lot of things that have been done wrong. Let's face it, human beings are not the most congenial species to run into. One of the things I think that is a good example is if you go all the way back to the 1940s, and back in the early days, people would not have been able to deal with extraterrestrials. The first thing that came out was the blob. They're going to land here and it's going to absorb everybody. And then you had, the little fuzzy monsters and different things that everything was evil. And then Hollywood started changing. We got into Star Trek. We got to go into that threw in Star Wars because there had to be a conflict going on somewhere. But you've seen progress made in the human species, and Hollywood and the movies are usually ahead. I don't know who guides and tells them what to do, but you'll find that our species have been educated and trained to come to the point of being able to accept that we are not the only species in the universe, and particularly when you realize that the different races that have been in contact with the Earth for the last 1,000 years or more, they could have destroyed us anytime they wanted to. And the fact that their interest in helping us mature and become more of a part of the intergalactic sentient beings, intelligent beings. So right now, there's questions about whether we're intelligent or not. In certain areas, we aren't. We have to grow up still some more.
I have a question off of Twitter, and Brett, you could start with this one. This comes from Canadian Joe. He is asking, didn't the aliens on the moon want us gone because they were mining helium-3 on the moon?
Well, I don't know if they were specifically mining helium-3, but there were there are a lot of substances that could be mined on the moon. There's titanium, selenium, all kinds of beryllium. There's all kinds of materials that are very useful, especially, with nuclear reaction or even a clean type of hydrogen-based energy. Some of these, there's also different non-nuclear engines, that they could create energy for the rest of our lives, literally, that are on the moon. And the problem is the socioeconomic system that's set up on Earth. This is the thing that they're afraid, if it crashes or whatever, and we go to this clean type of energy, will we be able to, have the same type of system with that free system?
Let me jump in there a little bit, Dave. The question about were we warned not to return so much because of the the mining that was taking place. The whole asteroid belt and everything else, the elements and things are just more plentiful there than they are on our moon. Yes, there is evidence that there's mining that's been going on. More recently, the question is who's doing the mining. Some of it's ours. But then the thing of not returning because you're not ready yet, as it was transmitted to us, is because we were not peaceful enough. We would be bringing nuclear weapons, which, as I just explained, we even attempted to see what would happen if we detonated one on the moon and see if it was hollow inside or what have you. But there were other ways of doing that. In fact, I know for a fact, because I was part of the team there, when we each time we landed on the moon and we then took off to rendezvous with the command module, once we rendezvoused and docked the ascent stage of the lunar module with the command module, and we transferred all of the samples and all the rocks and things that we had collected on the moon, we would separate the ascent stage, or the LEM portion. The descent stage of the LEM was still sitting. It was actually the launch platform for us to make it into orbit. But anyway, we would send it down and then have it fire the retro rockets to make it impact on the moon at a certain location. So here you have a non-explosive device coming down at a pretty good speed, impacting on the lunar surface, and that set off a trigger of vibration. In fact, the seismic equipment that we set out on each one of the landings on the moon was a seismometer to be able to record the effects of an explosion, or in this case, an impact, either of an asteroid, in this case, the impact of the lunar module. We knew the amount of weight it was, the speed it would be traveling. It was easier for them to calculate the effect on the moon once it hit. And then, of course, and I have pictures of the actual transmission of the signals of the impact in my archive that shows it didn't just ring like what geologists will go out when they're looking for oil wells and things, and they have a thumper that sets off a signal, and they can determine if there's any liquid fluids, water, or in this case oil or what have you, below. On the lunar surface, we were able to determine that there was a great deal down below that is hollowed out. So we didn't have to send a nuclear bomb there to test it, and some of their great wisdom of the Earthlings on human decided, we'll send a nuclear bomb and blow it up and see, really find out what's going to ring. And in this case, that got nixed by extraterrestrials that detonated it before we got there. So we're making progress.
I like Joe's comment in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He didn't mean this as a question, but I'm going to use it this way, and either of you can respond. Joe says, I'm confused because there are so many people that so-called have the inside scoop of what is going on with the aliens, but none of their stories ever seem to match up. Can you help decipher that?
Yes, I can. There are many experiencers out there on Earth that go out and talk about their experience with extraterrestrials, or their the state of regressions, or this or that. The thing is that each individual has their own perception, and there are a lot of similarities in those stories, far too many to ignore. But the thing is that this thing that's out there is a very perceptive underlying reality thing. And it's not a matter of them hiding the fact that there's extraterrestrials. That's sort of a given and has been for millennium. That there's different races on the planet. There's all of these different aspects of where we came from. The thing is that the religious aspect of it has their own agenda, and they have the so-called damnatio memoriae, where they wanted us to completely forget about our ancient history and where we came from, which was space. The thing is that they don't want us to know that, because then they don't have control over the situation, and they think it's for our own good. Now, the thing is, as far as all of these people that are going out and they're talking about their experience with extraterrestrials, namely Travis Walton or someone that's been abducted or something like that, there is a lot of proof that something definitely happened with these, with these individuals. The thing is that if we're looking for proof, extraordinary proof or whatever, as human beings, with only an Earth context, how are we ever, see, they know this, by the way, how would we ever get any proof, even if an alien came and knocked on our door and said, okay, I am an alien? Would you believe him? See, with your perception of denial and debunking, would you believe that that's an alien? Would you believe that there is an alien flying that flying saucer, or would you believe that that's just one of the government secret space program objects? So these are the things that we're dealing with. Is this this lack or the refusal to look at people that, or listen even to people that have had an extraordinary experience that doesn't fit within the construct of this reality, this underlying reality.
So one of the things is that people will listen to what others say in the form of religion. They're going to listen to their ministers or their bishops or who have you, or the governments are going to be told. They're going to ask the question, well, do aliens exist or what have you there? And the comment from the leaders, so they don't have to think, will say, oh no, that's just a bunch of hooey going on. Well, Bret and I have been talking all over everywhere we've been going, is do your own research. Dig in there. The information is there. The material is there. You can find out the truth. The truth is out there, but it's going to require the people to do their own research and find out about it. And the government has not made it that clear. They've kept it from us long enough, but with enough of us with experiences, we're able to now come and say, well, this was true, that was true. I've seen the evidence of that. That's obviously the truth. What you said isn't the truth. Now, how are you going to get out of that situation? It's time now. That's why we're no longer, I don't think we're in the soft disclosure phase right now. I think we are rapidly moving into full disclosure, and now people will have a lot more materials and things to research themselves and understand, so they can get the history to blend into where it makes sense instead of just, it's my way or the highway. You have to be able to get the truth out there.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that they're going to disclose pretty hard is the fact that we have a secret space program. And they're not going to say that it was influenced at all by extraterrestrials. So if that, makes any sense. They've actually trained their military personnel to even debunk Roswell by saying that it was just an early version of the SR-71, which was, the A-12 Avenger. And, the A-12 Avenger kind of looks like a, triangle-y shaped thing, similar to some of the crash observations that people have made of the Roswell crash. And they're saying that the alien that they thought was an alien was just the pilot, that was in full pressure, flight pressure suit with the oxygen mask that comes out and everything else. Now, the thing is that the flight suit, I've looked it up, looks absolutely nothing like an extraterrestrial, that people would say that that's an extraterrestrial. It's obvious that that's a man in a suit,
But if you don't know what G suits, what we'd call them, is to be able to handle the excess Gs, looks like, again, haven't done your own research and checked it out, you can say, oh, wow, then yes, he's probably right. That was one of our early experiments. It's dealing with people who don't want to think for themselves is the most difficult thing we've ever had to try to get the information out there, because they just want to believe what they've been told to believe, because life's a whole lot more simple if somebody does the thinking for you. That's sad but true.
Yeah, and there's people that have actually witnessed that crash, and they're in tears about it, holding their daughter's hand while they're dying and saying, hey baby, don't believe any of that crap that you hear. There were aliens and there was a UFO. So there's there's these human experiences that people are having with some of these issues that require this so-called extraordinary proof. You'll notice that these debunkers and these people that are with this CSI or skeptic organizations, they actually get anonymous funds and they get paid to do this. So they have a lot of reasons to do this, aside from the fact that a lot of them say that they're not religious or they're not affiliated to a religious organization. But in fact, they are. One of the oldest, in fact, is the Church of Christ that goes all the way back, to the Society of Friends. So the military-industrial complex is absolutely indoctrinated with Christianity and some of the fundamentalist ideas of this country. Now the thing is that at the same time, then they call people that do that, or they're terrorists, religious terrorists or whatever, that believe in aliens or angels or demons or this or that. And that's the thing that we should look at is discernment. Who do we go to do our own investigation? And I would say start with your experience, whatever that was. If you had a strange experience or whatever, and you start looking for answers, you'll find them. But you're going to find them not from our government, because they've obviously lied about these things. And the thing is that why would we believe them if their president came out and said, okay, everybody, guess what? Aliens are real. Well, these people have been lying to us for centuries. Why would we believe someone like that? I would sooner believe the farmer who has no teeth that said, an alien came up and I wasn't sure if he was going to do something to me or not, because I've heard that they do that. So I would sooner believe that guy, that watched his cow get abducted, than to believe a president or any of these military people on these things. We've talked to military people, and they seem to have a scripted story for all of these things. Yeah, they're completely, utterly brainwashed.
You mentioned about the secret space program, Bret, and that you think that's going to come out in some sort of disclosure coming up soon. Where are they hiding all of this technology? Where are they storing it? I don't see it just being at Area 51.
No, it's not just at Area 51. There's some, there's some at Los Alamos, some different pieces of it, parts. They're experimenting with biological materials, a lot of it for the agenda of bio-warfare or something like that, because they weaponize everything, even psychology.
There are a lot of underground bases, and that's coming out now too, in which what you see on the runways of our airports and things are, maybe at least 50 years behind what we've already reverse engineered and created using. The military is using themselves. They're so far ahead of what we see visually as a society, but it's out there. And Dulce, as one, actually had an extra wing of it that is craft that is so far advanced of our. And again, I wish I brought the book with me. It's out there, but Dr. Gere has all. He has interviewed so many hundreds of people, and the number of the evidence of people who are willing to come forward now. And again, that's back to that tsunami, as I was mentioning at the beginning. The people are decided that they're tired of waiting for the governments all over the world to come forward. And you find that many of the governments have released documents and records of extraterrestrial contact and UFOs to the point where only America, Canada, and Great Britain are still trying to hold on to the reins, because they don't want to lose. Their fear is that they're going to lose control, and that the effect upon the society will be so traumatic that it's not the oil dollar or what have you, that's controlling the world anymore. because there's 0-point energy and those things which Tesla and some of the other scientists way back when were already experimenting with, and we should have already had it. So we're making progress, we're getting there, and it's starting to happen. And I think this year, and I'm one that's out on the front of this saying, this is the year of full disclosure, and it's starting to happen.
Well, yeah, gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on to that thought in regards to the full disclosure of 2017, because we are up against the wall here when it comes to the first break of the night, and I don't want to have to all of a sudden cut you off in the middle of getting to some pertinent information regarding this. But I'm going to get you guys to hold on right now, because I'm going to take our first break of the night. Our guest tonight, Ken Johnston, Bret Colin Sheppard. We're talking everything from aliens, disclosure. We're going to get into more about Mars, the moon, Ken's past regression, contact with aliens. There's so much we can talk about tonight. And we got 120 minutes left on this show. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this. Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride. Tomorrow night on the program, well, here on the West Coast, it's my birthday. It's my birthday tomorrow. I haven't booked anybody. I'm opening up the lines to you. Whoever wants to call in can call in tomorrow night. Chat with me. We could talk about anything. I'm just going off the cuff tomorrow night. I hope you enjoy the show and you roll with me and call on in because I want to hear from you. And tomorrow night's going to be a special night. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And we are also live on Revolution Radio. The Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kellyusmatically is your password for tonight. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, Player.fm, and Stitcher. Our website is SpacedOutRadio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can read up on the encounter online, our news section, or we have a brand new store. We have Spaced Out Radio t-shirts. We got stickers. We got posters. Soon, Carl the Alien calendar or candles. And hopefully a lot more in the near future for you. So check that out today. Ken Johnston and Bret Colin Sheppard are joining us tonight. We are talking everything conspiracy when it comes to what is happening in space above. Gentlemen, welcome back.
We're here.
Awesome. Now, right before the break, we were talking about disclosure, and Ken, you said something very, very interesting regarding the fact that you believe 2017 is the year of disclosure. Now, Stephen Bassett has been saying this is the year of disclosure for about the last 15 years, yet it hasn't happened. What has you convinced that 2017 could be the start of that process? I'm not sure. We're not hearing Ken. I'm not sure if his phone is off or not.
All right. Am I on now?
There you are. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I really want to get into this, but I'm going to go ahead and take a jump on it because, in reality, the debunkers, for one, that have gone after anyone who's come forward with information, and Bret can talk about things he's recently discovered about how they make their money by debunking anybody that comes forward. But now, because of credibility, that has been a key factor in the fact that I was able to save the archive that I have and make it available to the whole world, actually, as well as the research centers and things that are going on. Now that is out there, and there's the reaction that I've got back feedback from is they said, "Oh my God, he really does have the pictures." They thought that I was just a lot of BS, if you want to use the term. It's out there. Now, since then, I've had the opportunity to get with Dr. Sasha Lesson and do a little bit of regression, past life regression or what have you. And it gets back to why I'm thinking that this is the time of full disclosure. And that is experiences that I've had in this life and past lives. And hopefully we're going to get it all written out and to where everybody can find out. But apparently, I may have had the opportunity for being trained to become a solar system ambassador. And as strange as it might seem, for a period of almost 5 full years, I was a solar system ambassador for NASA and the JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And that was going just fine until Mr. Richard Hoagland decided to put the tag on me of being a whistleblower and put me in his first book, I think, on Mars and the Dark Mission. At any rate, consequently, they went at, I should say, the Oberg and Company went after me and got JPL to drop me from the Solar System Ambassador program. Well, it so happens that in hypnotic regression, as a child, I was picked up in a little town called Hart, Texas, only 560 people, and I could go into a lot of detail on that, but I'm not. But and I was taken back to either their very giant mothership or to their planet, where a lot of us young people, because at the time I was only like in the second, third grade, and we were being trained about the future that was going to be coming to planet Earth, based upon the experience of what we were having there, and in my case, how to actually fly one of the saucer-type craft. Now, if I had come out with that way back before we were talking about the bases on the Moon, bases on Mars, based upon the archive and photographs and documents that I have and that I've made available, people wouldn't even have taken the opportunity to believe any of that because they're saying, "Oh, well, he's a total wacko." Well, I don't think so. I'm ready for that. Now, let's take a look at what has happened here in the very recent past. We've had Antarctica. We've had some of the most important people around the world suddenly show up down at Antarctica. And why? What did they discover there? And some of the information is now leaking out that that when they drilled down, that they tapped into a domed area in Antarctica that was the equivalent of like 3 Empire State Buildings high, and that a river's running through the base down there, and the temperature inside the river is basically 70 degrees. So you had a warm climate even inside this sealed dome structure of an ancient city. It was created way back before the slight repositioning of the Earth's axis and causing the Antarctica to become ice, total frozen over. So with that happening, it's just not a jump at all to say, okay, this is, if that's some disclosure coming there, we're ready for the rest of the disclosure. The people that have been sitting back afraid to come forward, because people have been threatened with their lives, and if they did anything, then even their families' lives in the past, they've been threatened with that. They don't have to worry about that, because, and I'm not taking advantage of this, but people like myself and others that did have documents and records and information that have come forward can feel comfortable with going ahead and doing it now, because the truth is out there. What good would it do them to do something to us? It would create a bigger problem for the governments and the agencies to try to do us in or get rid of us, because we've already put the information out there. It's out there. Now we're getting everyone the opportunity to do their own research and look into it. So I think you can add some to that, Brett.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to maybe say that if you look on Google Earth and you look at Antarctica, there's hundreds of military bases there from all over the world. And one of them was New Schwabenland, that was created during right after the peak of Nazi Germany during World War II. And the Germans are the ones that are responsible for starting our secret space program in the first place. And guess what the secret space program actually is? It's not what they're hiding. The secret space program is their need to show the public that we're still using fuel-based rockets to go out into space. And this was a socioeconomic reason, a control reason. That is the secret. The secret is what they've done to cover everything up. Now, it's not necessarily a secret to the hundreds of military personnel that are working around these secret crafts and these incredibly technological feats that they've done since World War II. Most of the things that we saw flying around in the skies in California and Utah are exactly the same as the German designs for the Haunebu and some of their extraterrestrial-inspired technologies. Now, the Earth is limited. We can only do so much. We have accomplished reverse gravitics and some electromagnetic ideas and technology, as well as solar technology and that for energy. The thing is that the Earth is limited. The things that the extraterrestrials initially offered were impossible for humans to even conceive of, because it's not the same environment. It's just a fact that our science is limited to Earth. Now the thing is that they're obviously hiding things in Antarctica because there's so many military bases there. If they were able to hide things for 40 years in Area 51, just imagine what a black site that no one even knows about in Antarctica, or up north in somewhere in Greenland, or somewhere in one of these places that we just don't have access to or ready access to. The thing is that there's satellites that we don't even know about because they actually circle the Earth north to south pole, orbit. And we don't even know about those satellites or what pictures they're taking, because they do not want us to know what's there. The most they'll show us is, yes, we've established this facility or this base, or we've established this base in this area of Antarctica. And that is what they're not exactly trying to hide the technology. They fly it around our own skies all the time. That's not what they're hiding. They're hiding the cover-up. the means of the cover-up, how they covered everything up. And one of those things was directly NASA. NASA was basically the propaganda based on Konstantin Tsiolkovsky when he was affiliated with making the movie The Cosmic Voyage. And this was back in the 30s. This particular movie, if anyone looks that up on YouTube or something, you can actually find it. And it's subtitled, but if you watch the old black and white movie, it is exactly the same propaganda that NASA used on the American public. And this whole idea of this propaganda was absolutely to cover up what they were actually doing in secret. Wernher von Braun was affiliated with many things. A lot of people that were at NASA, even Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, was affiliated with Stanford Research Institute projects in remote viewing. He was basically working with Ingo Swann and Uri Geller and all of them to basically be a subject out in space and have them remote view him and all of this. This is where the idea of perception comes in, because this is the underlying reality of what's really going on. Anyone with common sense that has had an experience or seen something strange flying in the sky that didn't look like an airplane at all, knows that they have extraordinary technology, either the extraterrestrials or our military, and they have to hide these apparently. And it's not, like I said, the cover-up is what the issue is. They're not really trying to hide anything. They show us in movies all the time. They bombard us with all of these things, but it's our perception of it. So if we were to go to a movie like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and know for a fact in our minds that everything in that movie is the absolute truth and is real, that would be quite a different perception of that's just fiction. So, what they've done is they've put all of these truths out in a fictitious matter, to give us an underlying reality. Yeah, hidden in plain sight, so to speak. So you have all of these secret organizations and these secret projects, and it's actually very convoluted now. They're confused. They're compartmentalized. They don't know what the other one's doing behind the curtain. So these are some of the problems that they're facing when you talk about disclosure. Disclose what? What part of it? What layer of the disclosure? What frequency of the disclosure? What vibration of disclosure are they going to put out at us? And like I said, I don't trust them. I trust my own spirit, my own eyes, just like everyone else, because we are allowed to have our own human perception about all of these issues. And, to answer that guy's question, I know for a fact that they've got satellite dishes on the moon because I have a friend that worked on them. And so, and I have another friend, I mentioned that on Facebook, and I have another friend that came up and he said, well, I'll tell you what, I think it was William Whitecrow, actually. He said, he had been to Mars, he had saw all the secret space program stuff. He said, we have a lot more than that on the moon than just satellite dishes, believe me. So if we have bases on other planets, that could be an explanation of where are they hiding these giant ships that William Tompkins is talking about. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think for the skeptics out there, though, the one thing that they want is that real proof that it's out there. Instead of, like you just said, take my word for it, trust me. People in this field, Bret, are getting so sick and tired of hearing that statement that, unfortunately, that's all we have. Because literally Donald Trump or Obama before him, maybe Hillary because of John Podesta, if she would have got in, would have said something. But there are so many secrets out there that we're tired of hearing the secrets. People are at that point now where it's give us the goods or just go away. They're becoming fickle that way, which is probably exactly what the government wants. But in the meantime, you can't blame the people for saying, I need more than this now.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? The experiencer, the ones that finally see the flying saucer with their own eyes, or whatever, or the giant craft in the sky with their own eyes, they're not looking for answers or this fundamental thing. Their question is, who's flying it now? So a lot of proof has been out there.
Well, one of the things, Dave, is that it's not just taking Bret's word or my word for it. The fact that my archive and stuff is now available to everybody in the world. People are going in and they're looking at and finding these bases that are on the moon, as well as those that are on Mars. There's tangible, physical evidence of the existence of intelligent beings, be it either ourselves, which in many cases it is, but that's my word. But I'm saying if you're looking at the actual photographs of these bases and information there, then you're moving into the 21st century and ready for the full disclosure. So what? Not just Bret saying you got to believe what I'm saying, but take a look at the data that's coming out. People, and that's where I'm looking for more data coming in about Antarctica, because there's more information coming in about what they really discovered out there, and I'm just now getting into researching that area myself. I wanted to say something else about the problem you mentioned, that people say they've been lied to so much, and I just discovered this myself within this past week, because people would say, well, we didn't really land on the moon, that was a fake, this part was a fake, and that's it. Well, winds up that there really was some videos, movies made in studios showing Neil and Buzz Aldrin coming down the ladder one at a time and stepping off on the lunar surface. And that was made available in the event that something did happen, and because it was a race against the monstrous Russian administration, that we had to be the first ones to win there. So yes, there were movies and things that were made, but we wound up not. Oh, and part of the reason that we're concerned there is if the landing, the cameras that were taking place on board the craft as we landed, as well as when we first came out on the lunar surface, would have exposed some of the bases that were close, as well as craft that were landed or hovering around the side of the crater area where Apollo 11 landed. And so, they played some games with us, and I was one of the hardest ones to convince that they could have possibly done that. Until now, I can look at my archive, look at the pictures I have, as well as look at some of the movies and the videos that were run that we wound up. Fortunately, the cameras angles, and I can certainly guarantee you on Apollo 17 particularly, when they came to the side of the crater and they're looking down inside the crater, and there were some actual parts of robots that were down on the bottom of this crater, and the way the rover that they were driving around in, the lunar cod, it was parked such that the cameras couldn't be controlled from mission control to look down inside there. So the crew themselves were able to just get out of the cart and take a little short walk down inside and pick up some of the equipment and bring it back. So there's always been the hidden reason, the hidden purpose that we went to the moon, as well as the proof that we actually did go. Because right now, with the satellites, the Chinese, the Japanese, the American satellites, Russian satellites taking pictures around the moon, is even the Hubble telescope can zoom in on the landing sites where each and every one of the Apollo sites landed, and you can still see where the descent stage is still sitting right where it was when we launched off to go rendezvous and come back to Earth. You can actually see where the rovers' tracks and things were. So there's proof that we actually went to the moon. But now I'm discovering there's some proof that false videos were made in the event of a mishap or exposing other information that they didn't want us to have. So that's for me and research just coming up within the past week and a half, 2 weeks. So if I can find it and the information's coming out there, it is being disclosed, and that's why I'm saying full disclosure is going. If you can convince somebody as hard-headed as I am that some of that stuff was faked, then you've come a long ways.
I got a couple questions building up in the chat room here. These first two come from Eric. Where do reptilians fit in with all of this ET talk?
Well, yeah, latest information I've looked at is not just the Greys, the reptilians, the Nordics, the Anunnaki. They're a majority of 7 major different species that have been following our progression. Actually had a little bit to do with how we jumped our evolving a bit, so that how the reptilians come in. I'm from what I'm looking at, they were the ones that Eisenhower made the deal with. They're a little bit more anti-human, if you want to put it that way. So I don't know if that answers his question or not, but they're those that don't have the same value of our human lives as we would like to have, but then yet they are under control by and I guess the term I can use is the Intergalactic Federation of Sentient Beings, if you want to give a name or a title to some kind of an organization that is saying, all right, you've got to clean up the mess that you created here and help Earthlings, humans, mature into becoming ready to become part of this Intergalactic Federation of Sentient Beings.
Follow-up question from Eric. Or do you want to answer to that first, Brett?
Oh, yeah, I'd just like to say a little bit about it. The reptilians have been recorded in our ancient history. You know, they've been on this planet longer than we have, probably because the environment was right for reptiles, you know, back then. And the thing is about some of the old stories, there's conflicting stories from different extraterrestrial races. There's one race that are not Greys. They're sort of bluish and have like peach fuzzy kind of hair on them, according to, you know, these Czechoslovakian girls that are contacting them. And they say that you know, our genetics come from very specific places out in space, you know, and that yes, there's some reptilian mix in there, of course, because, you know, it's a pretty hardy species. They can live in environments that there's no way that we could possibly live in as a human. There's the thing about the reptoid species is it's quite a natural species on Earth. There's all kinds of reptiles on Earth, you know, and it goes all the way back to the Chukahari, you know, that Credo Mutwa was talking about, and you've got the Brotherhood of the Snake, you know, some of the more esoteric ideas of the cosmic snake and all of that. The thing is that they have, at least the idea of them has been with us for since Earth arrived, you know, as a viable planet, you know, that was probably manipulated in a way that where it was put in the Goldilocks zone. You know, there's a lot of terraforming going on in the universe, and some of it, I would say all of it's, you know, quite natural, though manipulated. You know, they don't have the power of creation or something like that, but they do manipulate things, and that's been known to be happening with every species that we've ever heard of. That they've come and they've tried to manipulate certain things to benefit them, and human beings aren't any different than that. The thing is the reptilians are part of our subconscious, and when we look at what all of the ideas of dragons and this sort of thing, the cosmic egg and the dragon, you know, We've heard about Tiamat, which was the first representation of a dragon, and it was beautifully written by J.R. Tolkien. The idea of Smaug, the dragon, coming in as the destroyer and all of that. And this goes all the way back to the Bronze Book and the Sons of Fire. These stories of from the Chaldean Magi, that wrote all of these ideas in the 7 tablets of creation. These same Chaldeans, moved to England and had all of their records and everything in Glastonbury Abbey about dragons and where all of that came from. They had stories of King George and the dragon and the perceptive idea that this dragon was their god, in some fashion or another, and demanded sacrifice and all of that. So the whole idea of sacrifice comes from that brotherhood of the snake and going way, way back to the Brahmins and everything else. The sacrificing basically ceased when they knew that they could control people by just creating like a demigod that could take on all of the sacrifice of the world and all of that. And we know that story. So these are some of the underlying ideas that have been with us on Earth for centuries, and it all coincides with that idea of a dragon, the bad guy in the cosmic egg creation, and the whole demonic thing and everything else comes from the idea of the slithering things, on Earth. So I hope that helps.
Let's get to more questions. What does MyLabs have to do with anything then?
Yes, MyLabs are the military abductions. They are the ones that are responsible for the propaganda of making it look like aliens are the bad guys. So these guys will come and abduct a person, or or come and get a cow or manipulate it or whatever. Not that extraterrestrials have not done that, but I find it hard to believe that the extraterrestrial would kill the cow because they wouldn't have to take samples. Now, the thing is about these military, I know a guy named George Oliphant, I believe that's his name. Anyway, he was one of the military people that were hired to investigate, or told to go out and investigate these cattle mutilations and all. At the time when Linda Moulton Howe was reporting on it and all that. What he said about it is he didn't believe that aliens were the ones that were doing this. Ultimately, he believes that they were the MyLabs. They were the military to make propaganda, to make it look like aliens were bad guys.
All right, let's get to another question here. This one comes from Christopher. If these alien species are advanced enough to travel to and mine our moon, then why can't they just capture a mine and exploit one of the millions of asteroids or comets that are traversing all over our solar system?
I'll jump in on that one just a little bit. To come up with a question, you'd have to assume that the aliens are only mining on the moon because that's the only source they have. When in reality, if you can go back as far as 1958, I believe that's about when Eisenhower made his deal, and the advanced technology that we were using, the fact that helium-3, as was brought up earlier, is extremely rare here on Earth, but it's extremely available on the moon. And I would venture to say that the majority of the mining going on the moon is our secret space program working on that ourselves. Okay, now I'm sure there are other species that could certainly be there, but then just finding out recently the fact that we have the technology and have had it for some time, and the fact that the moon is that close to us, wouldn't it be logical that we would be the ones to be doing the mining there, when, as the person that called in said, why not go to one of the large asteroids or the near planetoids in the asteroid belts, etc., and where you won't have any conflicts or anyone people to deal with, and they could do their mining that way. That makes a whole lot more sense to me, in that order of things.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Eric. What do you know, if you've looked into it at all, about Task Force Silk, the arrangement between Eisenhower and Churchill?
What I know about that is that not just Eisenhower and Churchill, but actually all the world leaders, even though considered enemies to the public, it was actually a lot of propaganda going on. These military leaders are not mad at each other. Scientists are working together all over the world. That is the truth. These guys are all in the same boat. How do we keep the world going? So the thing is that when Eisenhower goes to Churchill or anyone else, the thing is that there is this shared technology that is directly coming from an extraterrestrial source, whether that be working with a Ouija board and contacting the entity itself, or interdimensional or whatever, or actually physically an embodied extraterrestrial here on Earth. The thing is that they did receive quite a bit of technology. There was a huge technological jump at that time, and this technology that was coming from Tesla and others that openly said that they got, even Einstein said that it was from an extraterrestrial source. Absolutely. And this is the reason why the world leaders were getting together. G1 Summit and all of this, they think they're getting together over finances. That's a complete construct of Earthlings. That's not something that world leaders would meet about. They would sooner meet about the advancements and technologies that were available, that they could actually either use themselves, like Kissinger has referred to some of these technologies, in healthcare and all of that are not shared with the rest of the world. Kissinger himself has enjoyed an extraordinarily long life because of these technologies. The thing is that's what the meeting is about, is what to release to the public and how slow or how fast.
In addition to what you said with Kissinger, because I know Kissinger's one of the, not 12, I know that at least 7 of the most wealthy people in the world, and they're the ones that are really pulling the strings, not our military, etc. And as Bret was pointing out, it's almost a game to some of them on how they can manipulate the economies and manipulate technology, so long as they're the ones that are the royalty that's benefiting from all of the us little peons that are down below the food chain, if you want to put it that low. Okay.
All right, let's move on here to question. Joe has a very, very intriguing question. I think there's some legitimacy to this. He is saying, if it's a secret space program, how come everyone knows about it?
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying before, is that they are not hiding a secret space program. They are not hiding that. What they're hiding is the corruption and the propaganda and the ways that they hid it. Because people would flip out if they knew that, that we had this technology the whole time, and only a few were benefiting from this technology when there's starving people in the world, when there's all kinds of health care problems. These technologies are not limited on Earth.
It brings to mind the fact that the whole Apollo program was designed to appease the people, as well as the Cold War going on, but to appear that we were advancing in technology, etc., but at a much slower pace than what was actually going on. So the I want to call it dark mission program has been going on much longer and so much further advanced than what we can perceive and see. That's all part of disclosure, is coming out and finding out the truth of what's been going on. So that's kind of kind of where we're at right now is we're at the beginning of finding out that we have been lied to, and that we've played the games with humans in order for them to the wealthy ones to be able to have more great wealth and power and control. It's all for them, in my opinion. It's all a game.
Eric has an interesting question. He is asking, Brett, Ken, what is your opinion of the 1952 Washington, D.C. flyovers of unidentified flying objects?
That was an attempt to force the governments into disclosure at that earlier stage. And, I've often talked to people, they said, well, how come they don't just come and land on, the White House lawn or in Russia at the big parade place? The thing is the governments would hide it and say, oh, well, that was one of our craft, just like Brett and I discovered on the trip we just made, talking about the crash in Roswell. And they're so brainwashed that the person wasn't even born at the time that's spouting out all of this information to guests that ask the question about it. And when, in fact, those of us that have been around long enough that know it really did happen. Well, the flight over Washington, D.C., with the 9 or 12, however many craft there were, was an attempt by the extraterrestrials to push Earthlings into accepting the fact that there are sentient beings elsewhere in the world other than what we have. So, yeah, it happened, and it just, unfortunately, the governments were able to come up with some excuse, and the people themselves so busy fighting the depression that was going on at the time to just get enough food on the table to survive.
Yeah, there's another little thing about that. The first deal that Eisenhower made with extraterrestrials was actually a deal for peace, and this is with the Nordics, that were apparently on the moon, and they had extraordinary technology. Every time they say Nordics, by the way, in my mind, automatically I'm thinking German. Okay. So, yeah, these are, let's say, the Germans on the moon, or whatever.
The Nordics to me are the tall, blonde, good-looking young ladies. So, I mean, okay.
I'd go there.
Yeah,
I'd go there.
Yeah, basically, the Billy Myers, sex chicks and all that, whatever. But, Nordics or whatever on the moon. And Eisenhower basically said, no, we can't do that. We can't let our guard down and all that. These beings, whether they're Germans or Nordics from Aldebaran or whatever you want to call it, basically care very much about us because they are us, okay? There's an aspect of them that absolutely are us. They're just our space brothers. And their flyover Washington, D.C. was to let them know that we're still here. We're still going to take care of you whether you like it or not. And that's what it was saying. It was that blatant. These craft that were flying over, the reason why I know that they're associated with the Nordics and the Germans is because they were reported the same craft as the Haunebu and the Vril and all of that, and these Billy Meyer type, Palladian type craft. Now these craft, that are running around in our atmosphere and limited to our gravity. Let's think about this for a second. These are the extraterrestrial, possibly the German craft that were flying around. We've heard of the Battle of Los Angeles, the same thing. This craft is shaped typically like a Haunebu. It's the same style, the 50s style flying saucer with the balls underneath it and everything, with the windows. This is not, this is not extraterrestrial like we think. And imagine how difficult it would be for the military or whoever to disclose the fact that there's most of the extraterrestrials that are visiting Earth look exactly like us. That's even harder than saying that they look like a gray or a demon.
Or we look exactly like them.
Right.
Let's get to John's question here. John is saying, what do you think, guys, will be more shocking? The confirmation of extraterrestrial life or the secret space program?
Well, just to say something real quick about that, the more difficult thing psychologically for people to handle are the lies that they told that whole time. It would have absolutely nothing to do with extraterrestrials, and they would actually find out that one of the lies is that the extraterrestrials meant us harm.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I was expecting a long-winded answer there, and I didn't get one. What the Sam hell here? Let's go over to the chat room on Revolution Radio. The Gazer is asking, Ken, what is your opinion? Are the moon landings 100% real? And I'm assuming he's thinking about the Apollo landings.
Well, I get that question asked everywhere I go, and I kind of would like to be like Buzz Aldrin. You've heard it so many times when somebody, you didn't go, you didn't land, everything. He turned around and he decked him and knocked the guy out. But here's my answer: is yes, we definitely win. There's no question in my mind, and for being a part of the Grumman team, as being one of the first 4 civilian astronauts that for Grumman that tested the spacecraft's lunar modules in the vacuum chambers, and we helped train the regular astronauts how to fly. And I explained to them this way: okay, do you believe we got satellites that have been going around the moon? And, well, yeah, okay. And, well, okay, you know what the Hubble telescope is? And they'll usually say, oh, yeah, okay. I said, well, then when we take pictures around the moon of the landing sites that we said we landed at, how come the descent stage of the lunar module is still sitting there at each one of those sites? And the rovers are there from the Apollo 15, 16, 17, and 18. No, 18, excuse me, I jumped ahead of there. Those are still there, parked beside the descent stage. Now, how could they get there if we didn't go to the moon? And I've had people say, oh, well, I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. I said, well, while you're thinking about that and you get real close to the edge of the flat Earth, don't fall off of it. You're going to have to come to reality that, in fact, we did go to the moon. I'm going to, offer a really good answer for that question. Yes, we went to the moon. The reason why there's obfuscated and fake images is because they are never going to show us what's on the moon until they're ready to. That is the truth. They went to the moon. They actually had help getting to the moon. There was no time when they were in flight that they weren't escorted by extraterrestrials. Now, the thing is, and I'm talking about the good ones, that I mentioned that actually care about us and want peace for our planet. These are the either the Nordics from Palladian or Aldebaran or whatever, or just the Germans that have learned their lesson, or whatever. But they were followed by these extraterrestrial craft all the way to the moon. And I can tell you, I've studied every single, and I mean this, every single NASA image that they've ever put out to the public. And I can tell you that there is a huge problem with all the lander images. They very well could have used certain... there's a complexity because some of them are real. I know this for a fact because in Ken's archive there's actually stuff flying around that is not ours in the lunar sky. When all of the NASA images that were put out were completely, painted black in the background, and the way they did this was the Disney-style acetate over the topography of the image and everything, and they would actually literally paint the background black over this acetate, and sometimes they'd leave a spot. I actually know what the pixels look like in a typical NASA image with the filter and everything, even if it's printed on canvas. And these particular pixels are painted around completely black, matte black. And Donna Hare has actually witnessed this procedure being done by someone else. I'll say that the lander images on Mars and on the moon are completely obfuscated.
literally put artwork and all kinds of pictures in there. They smush them, like, for instance, cars or boats or planes or this or that. Even Mickey Mouse. Okay, I've even seen Mickey Mouse on the moon obfuscated in one of their images, and they stretch it and they make it look funny or whatever. The thing is what they're hiding is underneath the surface of that. Whenever you see something ridiculous on the moon, like that looks like a dog or something, you know, or there's something underneath that obfuscation. And they literally, yes, they put acetate over the lunar orbiter images and the Apollo 11 images. They did a little bit different obfuscation. They painted the skies completely black, and they got rid of, by putting acetate over it, they actually painted out and got rid of, by smudging and using some of photography tricks like burn and dodge, had gotten rid of anything that looks like it's a mechanical thing or anything that shows any signs of life or secret bases or anything like that. So that is a fact from my studies. That is an absolute fact.
All right, let's get to Catherine's question. She is asking, what if non-Terrans are lying to us about everything, all just to stunt and top humanity's natural growth?
You're off. Could have turned off.
Oh. Lying is a very human thing to do. Greed and all of that. The extraterrestrials would have no reason to lie to us about us. So let's think about that for a moment. You know, why would they lie? They have absolutely no reason to. The truth is too much fun for them. I mean, these are creative beings. These were created by the Creator, and a lot of extraterrestrials out there actually believe that spiritually. In fact, they don't believe, okay? They know for a fact that they were created by whatever, the great Creator. Now, the thing is, what if we had that kind of spirituality where we actually knew and we didn't have to believe anymore? Let's think about belief for a second. Believing in aliens, believing in gods, believing in extraterrestrials, whatever, believing in secret space program and whatever we're supposed to question. Now, the thing is, I've been told by many military personnel that it's the questions that are important, not the answers. I completely disagree. The answers are what we need right now. The answers are important. To keep us questioning about things is the rat in the mill or whatever, you know, that keeps going and going and going, thinking that they're eventually going to get there. And that's exactly what they want to do to us right now. So, you know, enough with the questions. We need to look at our own human experiences and actually listen to each other, because we're the ones that actually saw that flying in the sky. We're the ones that were actually abducted by a MyLab military personnel. And, you know, they're doing brainwashing or waterboarding or whatever to try and get us to forget who was actually doing these crimes. Now, the thing is that extraterrestrials have never, I've never heard this before, that extraterrestrials were responsible for the murder or laming or, you know, or these types of sinister activities. It is always a very human thing to do. We're the ones that are violent. We're the ones that have proven to be violent. We have war after war after war. You know, all of our secret space technology came from extraterrestrials during World War II. Why in the world would they go to the Germans and give them... Now, let's think about the propaganda. Americans are the Germans, okay? We are those Germans. We're here. We had a bigger Nazi party in America than we did in Nazi Germany. So, you know, so let's put that in the underlying reality. The thing is that we are the ones that have the problem with coexisting with everything else out there. That is us.
That's the reason we were warned off of the moon and told you're not ready yet. You can't come back until you're ready. And we've gone through, decades now of indoctrination through Hollywood, through exposure, and to the point where we're pretty sort of ready. Hopefully, we can change some of our attitudes and be willing to listen and learn instead of it's my way or the highway, or we'll blow you up. So we're making progress.
I want to try and slip in one short question here, if you don't mind, because we only got about a minute and a half. I'll wait for Amber's question until the third hour. Man, Brett, you got going there, man. You got going. You need like a massage. Is the wife there massaging you behind you here now?
Nobody's there.
No, just probably an invisible extraterrestrial, prodding me along here.
Oh, you know what? I have to say this. You just brought up something. I actually, in my house, had one of those.
I know what they look like. I know exactly what you're saying.
And this one was pissed off at me because the last couple of months I haven't had one of our guests, Samantha, mow it on the air. And this little ET, I didn't see it. It was communicating through a psychic medium that I trust. And this little ET was like, you better get Samantha back on the air, otherwise we're going to rain some havoc on Spaced Out Radio. And I was like, okay, I can do that. It's not my choice. She's going through some health problems. What am I supposed to do? On that note, we are going to step out for our final break of the night. Bret Colin Sheppard, Ken Johnston. We're getting emotional with all of this Black Ops secret space program. We're going to talk Mars, the moon. More of your questions coming up in hour number 3 right after this, so make sure you check out. And yes, I am trying to get to everyone's birthday wishes for me. Thank you. I know on the East Coast that it's my birthday. In Central Time, it's my birthday. Mountain Time, it's my birthday. Damn it, I got an hour to go until it's here on the Pacific Coast, and I'm still young in Alaska and Hawaii for another few hours. But we're going to deal with it. We're going to have it. Thank you so much for all your birthday wishes. I really appreciate that. SpacedOutRadio.com is the website. This is Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for choosing us. We'll be back right after this. Looking for a great weekend getaway this fall? Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Come on up to the heart of British Columbia for the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon, being held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Speakers from all over North America are coming to discuss Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and intuitiveness for the 3-day event, September 29th to October 1st. For more information, go to spacedoutradio.com and click on the Caribou Paracon banner and book your tickets today. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 Mediums and a Large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Hope to keep you going for the ride tonight because we are having some Skype problems right now. I don't know what the hell is going on, but we're having some Skype issues right now. We're going to bring in the boys via my cell phone because that's just the way it goes sometimes. Gotta love Skype. Gotta love technology. More importantly, though, tomorrow night on the program, it's my birthday. So we're going to have a birthday show that is kicking off starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. I am encouraging all of you guys to call on in and be a part of this show. Because when we are a part of this show together, we're going to have a lot of fun. And I want to hear from all of you tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Go on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live as well during the show. And you can also follow us on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, Player.fm, and Stitcher. Our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can also shop at our brand new store, the SOR Store. That's just what we're calling it. Nice and simple. We got t-shirts, we got swag, we got everything going on there as well. And, of course, if you're looking for something to read, do me a favor. Listen in to and check out the Encounter Online, because that's where we have all of our great news put together by our news editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. So we're going to have to abbreviate here a little bit because I believe Ken and Brett, you guys are there?
Yes, we're here. We're here.
All right. Because what's happened here now, guys, is I've had to put you on my speakers. So the audio quality isn't going to be as good as it was because for some reason Skype is acting up on my end in regards to it. So I do apologize to our listeners for that. But you know what? The show must go on and we got to make things happen. No, it's not the Russians. No, it's not the North Koreans. No, it's not the aliens above. It's Skype. Blame Microsoft. We were talking in the last hour about just how everything seems to work in regards to the whole extraterrestrial contact and regards to what is going on in regards to the idea that, you know, what is being hidden from us. And it got a little passionate in the last hour, and I loved your passion with that, Brett. I really, really did. And I want to start off this hour with Amber's question. Amber is asking, do the people at NASA working on the space shuttles or the programs not know that SSP exists, the secret space program, and that therefore much better ships already exist? It seems like quite a waste of money to be putting on these lesser programs. Ken, maybe you want to start out with that one?
Yeah. Of course, you have to understand that I haven't been with NASA since, directly since 1980. But, yes, there were those of us who had questions and ideas, and we would discover a few things and say, you know, I want to go back and research that when I can. But we were under such pressure to accomplish the next phase of the Apollo program of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth, etc., and all of that. Then the contractors. I was with Grumman after Apollo 11, and Grumman laid off over 30,000 employees, and I used to think that was a huge number until just this past week. I was reading some records on it, and nationwide there were over 400,000 people that got laid off. That were everything from making, you know, diodes, resistors, and just each individual part that might go into another part of the whole system. Anyway, so we would come up with ideas, thoughts, and questions, but we never got a chance to go back and research and find out the truth about it. And then because of this tremendous layoff, the economy, we were almost in a depression at the end of the whole Apollo program, and people were just interested in making a living and supporting their families. We had PhD scientists selling newspapers along Houston streets. That's how bad things were for a while there. I was really blessed because I was, I guess, lucky that I was able to go directly from the vacuum testing of spacecraft right on over to the Lunar Receiving Laboratory and pick up at that. And so each time, but the problem is that you might be out of work for 2 or 3 weeks, and the money you set aside, you wound up tapping into that. So eventually, most of these people that got laid off went and found other occupations and other jobs, even though they may have been tremendous scientists and engineers, etc. So when you're stuck with the situation, you've got a family, you've got to support them. I had 3 kids. Sure, we didn't do the research we needed to find out about it, but we had lots of questions and lots of thoughts about that. I'd like to do a little test here, if you don't mind, Dave. And it's just come in reality because I've had another person repeat back to me when we were talking, and they made a statement, and I came up. Are you familiar with the term of the 100th monkey?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Well, there was a research test going on in a couple of different islands, and there were the same species of monkeys on different islands. But on one island, they would try to teach the monkeys to do a certain object in order to get food. Well, and nothing really happened on the other island until they got up to the 100th monkey on one island. They had been taught and trained how to do this, and then all of a sudden, the monkeys on the other island, without direct contact, were able to. They started doing the same thing. So it's a point of, we are all psychically, mentally connected one way or the other. So here I was discussing this with this person in the Philippines, and she relayed back to me. She said, "Well, that sounds like a plan." I said, "SLAP, SLAP." So I'm going to bet that people that have heard that expression today, that the 100th monkey has now been heard, and you're going to be hearing SLAP on your internet a lot more frequent than it is tonight. So it was just a little experiment I wanted to run.
All right. So when it comes to, Ken, the fact that NASA, really doesn't, or let me rephrase this question then. Do the regular employees know, and I know you haven't been involved in a long time, but if the secret space program had been going on this long, how do they not know about one another?
It's compartmentalization, and that's for sure. We were so focused on just our part, our contribution, and yes, I've talked to other people. It was really strange when I went back to NASA about 4 years ago on an event, and I hadn't been there in 30 years, and the reaction of the 24, 26-year-old young man that was going to show us around, he says, "Oh my God, you're Ken Johnston. You're an icon." And I thought, "Oh my God, what is an icon?" The situation you have is, and I don't mean to offend those that are still there with NASA, is that the people that had the technology, had the brains, had the skills and the abilities to accomplish what we did, were smart enough to leave and to get into other industries and take their technology, take their skills and abilities and apply them to other systems and other things than the space program. Yes, there's some wonderful, fine people there, but by and large, you had the Peter principle, the ones that stayed and hung on with teeth and toenail to keep their jobs and stay in the position to the point where I don't think that we have the intelligence to. I'm going to get a lot of trouble with this one for running the program like we had back during the Apollo program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at NASA there was also a deep psychology department.
You know what NASA stands for, don't you? NASA, never a straight answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, not a secret agenda. Right. Yes, I know. And the thing is that they had a deep psychology department. SRI was working directly with NASA through the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and this was to make sure that the public perception was going as planned. And anyone, they had decided, you know, in the Robertson panel and the Brookings report, you know, that we couldn't handle the idea of extraterrestrials, but that really wasn't the case. The secret agenda behind all of that, or the underlying agenda, was basically control, to keep the employees, you know, from even if they saw something or they physically were working with something that they felt was some part of a secret alien thing or something, they were not allowed to say anything. Most of them had signed, you know, the non-disclosure agreements. Donna Hare said, "I can't believe that all of these employees could basically keep that secret." And the reasoning is very simple. It wasn't a secret to them, you know, at all. And anyone who would say anything about it would have to alter public perception for that to go anywhere.
Our controlled press.
Yeah, and basically it was very simple to say that they were crazy and just, you know, have them commit, you know, career suicide, you know, just by coming out and saying such things. So that there was a very deep psychological brainwashing going on with all of the military programs.
I mean, one of the examples there is, you know, how they went after me, and they were saying, "Oh, well, he was just a clerk, and he didn't do this, he didn't do that." And I was looking through some of my files today because my wife needed some information. And I came across a copy I had of the the Lunar Sample Information Catalog that I had been the contractor that was responsible for taking all the scientists' information, put it together, and produce the document. And since I had the copy, the original there was my name. By golly, and you know, when you've been hammered so many times by people saying, "Oh, you didn't do that," if you don't have the records and don't have the documents like I did, they can probably hammer you down to the point where, and particularly where you've had to sign a non-disclosure, and I'd had to do that to get the secret, and then the top secret clearance was prove that. And they use a lot of very forceful means to be sure you keep your mouth shut. And like I said earlier, there's so many other things you have to do to take care of your family and do that's not as important as it is. But now it's time to the rest of the people to get the information out there. And so, you know, that's my plan, slap.
So where are they building these spaceships for the secret space program? Are they building them right under our noses, like at Boeing in Seattle or down in Houston or someplace else, St. Louis?
Yeah, they're not being built in the regular aircraft and rocket factories. And that's what I was telling Bret this earlier before we got started tonight. And then I discovered that we have some tremendous underground bases that we're discovering some of those now. I guess it's probably because we're talking about a 50-year or a 60-year period of time that those have been developed. That the people that really know are like, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. A very dear friend of mine that came forward before he died and gave a complete interview and talked about the underground bases and the craft that were being built down below. When he talked about the elevators to bring things up, you look at the aircraft carriers, the elevators that they use to take the aircraft down inside the aircraft carrier to protect them during weather. So that's the kind of elevators that they have down in the bases. So your secret space program is secret because the majority of it is down, and not just on the surface like Area 51. We're talking about over below Dulce and some of the other secret places that are now people are coming to the point of dying, and they don't want to die with the information still in their head. They're wanting to make it get, you know, it's kind of like confession time. Come out and tell the truth.
Yeah, you know, I know you guys are a lot of you are aware of this, but the secret space program was funded through federal sources, you know, but the feds didn't even know that they were using the money for that for a very long time, and then there's been no oversight or anything on this money, but it was being funneled through. It sort of came out during the George Bush administration, and through the housing and urban development, different supposed what do you call it? These NPOs and all that, not-for-profit organizations that were popping up all over the place, as well as the official, our true government organizations, like HUD or something like that. But all of this money was coming through there, not to mention the trillions of dollars that were spent on tin cans and rocket fuel. So, the thing is that not all of that money, of course, was used to develop rockets to go to space. That's absolutely, fundamentally ridiculous. We had the resources to do that without the funds, actually. Does that make sense? Because they control the resources. So, if they were getting money from the feds or whatever through these organizations, it would probably go to their nice, big, fancy houses and all of this other jazz, this exaggerated lifestyle that a lot of these secret people live. Now, think about this for a second. They control the resources. The military controls all the resources. They don't need one dime from the federal government or anything else. The only reason they need that money or whatever is for their independent livelihoods in public. Seriously. So, you've got all of that money that's funneling in or whatever. It's a show. It is a game. It's propaganda to say that, this person has gotten more money than the other person or whatever. When everything on this planet is based on resources, everything in the galaxy is based on resources. Can you imagine going to pay an extraterrestrial for titanium on the moon, in dollars? Can you imagine that? I mean, it's hardly the case. So the financial system is an Earth-based thing, and our secret space program is not running on federal money.
And it's also, like you were pointing out earlier, the money spent on the Apollo program, and the whole Apollo program was to give a public appearance of our progress in technology and advancement, when in reality, from the agreement that Eisenhower made, we were getting light years ahead of with our secret space program. And that's kind of where all that other money's been siphoned off and going to that.
I got a question from Everett coming in from the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, as space travel moves closer to privatization, do either of you believe that the governments of the world will regulate or outlaw travel to the moon?
I don't doubt that they will try, for sure. That's where the full disclosure is going to have to come in, because they. I think the only ones that could keep us from going to the moon or going on to Mars would be the actual secret space program, trying to make it appear that no, we're warned away, stay away, or we're going to get blown up or what have you. The governments would do everything they can to try to keep the status quo. But in reality, no. If we get full disclosure and the information is out there, then there shouldn't be any way that they can keep private industry from being, particularly whenever we get the technology available, that we don't have to use hydrocarbon propulsion systems and things, can go to anti-grav movement, and it may, we may, in my lifetime, we may be able to go on a honeymoon on the moon and have a good look and see what it looks like on Earthrise. It's possible.
Yeah, that is the thing. The problem, that arises from that thought of the propaganda that's been used and everything. These privatized organizations, you've got India forming their international space program. You've got China with their new space program and all of this that is exactly a carbon copy of NASA's propaganda space program. So it's basically the front organization for the secret space program. And one example of that is the Navy mapped the moon during the Clementine mission. This map is identical to the one that the Chinese put out that just have more fancy pixels and all that. It is identical in lighting and the exact height of the orbit over the moon and everything else was exactly the same. Yeah, that's, for one thing, it's impossible. And what gave them away is they said that it happened at different lunar phases. In other words, the sun was at a different angle on, the Chinese moon map mission rather than, the Clementine mission or whatever. And, that's the thing, is that it was, the naval map is only darker. So, basically they just upped the contrast in lighting or whatever for the Chinese map. But the actual light, the sun azimuth and everything is exactly the same. So these are carbon copy space programs that are put out and privatized. These private pirates or whatever, like Bigelow and all them, are just trying to make public dollars or whatever to show the public that, that they can make all this money doing these privatized things, SpaceX and all of that. We don't need rockets to go anywhere anymore. The public needs to understand that. We don't need them. A good example is that most of the SpaceX rockets that are sent up at Cape Canaveral in Florida and everywhere, these rockets are basically target practice for the military and extraterrestrials. As soon as they go up, I can predict that they will explode on the way up into orbit because they're target practice. They've got a whole bunch of them lined up. So what exactly are the SpaceX projects for? What exactly is this one ticket to Mars or whatever, one-way ticket to Mars kind of thing, where we want to colonize Mars and we'll send people up, in a space rocket? Okay, that absolutely is a ridiculous idea to me. That's Buck Rogers, all right? The thing is we don't need those types of vehicles to get into space. And if we've spent trillions of dollars on rockets, then we're stupid. I'll just say it.
But how are we getting into space then, Brett?
We have mastered reverse gravitics. That is a fact. I've seen them flying around with my own eyes. We have mastered those techniques. In our physical reality, we've mastered reverse gravitics. We can take... See, the thing is we can take quite a large payload if we alter gravity, the way we see it in our physics. So if we take these reverse gravitational machines, we can take them anywhere. We can at least take them to an asteroid, as proposed by Barack Obama, to go onto an asteroid and connect to it and everything else. Guess what? That asteroid, some of the ones that were discussed were like Crutane and the ones that are like our natural moons around Earth that have a bean-shaped orbit. Well, this bean-shaped orbit goes all the way to Mars. You could literally take that asteroid, attach to it, and go to Mars without any rocket fuel whatsoever. You could take a reverse gravitics machine up to this particular asteroid that has a natural orbit, and this thing is flying really fast, So you basically attach to it with their pogo stick technique that they were talking about. I don't know, whatever. And you could literally hitch a ride with a life support vehicle all the way to Mars, all the way to Phobos and the moons of Mars. I've heard them discussing this in private NASA conversations where they were discussing which particular asteroid that they were going to do this with, attached to, with the Barack Obama thing or whatever. And they said, well, we can't take Crutane, that was named after a Pictish king, because it goes too close to the moon. I mean, they were freaked out. They said, we can't tell our boss that would be a good one to experiment with because it goes too close to the moon.
And if we did that, they would see the other bases that are on the moon.
That's exactly right. So, this is the thing, that we need to grow up. We don't need rockets. We've spent trillions of dollars on fuel. Give me a break. You know, I mean, it doesn't cost trillions of dollars to go to the gas station and fill up your car. It doesn't, for the whole United States, it doesn't cost that. You know, so the thing is they've lied to us about this fuel-based economy. That's a fact. You know, when I say resource-based, you've got the military that's gone in and they've harassed the shit out of Iraq, you know, to get ancient technology and ancient wisdom, you know, from these the city of Ur and the ziggurats and all that. There is a new MOS in the Army called archaeology. You know, it's ridiculous. So when I say resource-based, they've taken over the poppy fields in Afghanistan. You know, did you know that on Earth, helium-3, this substance is a byproduct of uranium development. So, you know, basically when you see all these nuclear plants all over the place, it isn't necessarily to give power to the whole city. It's to create a byproduct. This particular byproduct is very useful, and it's a forever energy source. It really is. And they're using it for the purposes of their anti-gravitic craft and so on. So, you know, there's a lot that people have absolutely no clue of. But common sense can at least tell you that we do not need rockets to go to space.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to a question from Revolution Radio here. And there's a couple of people asking in regards to what happened on the moon. Ken, maybe we can bring you in here. Did aliens threaten us to stay away from the moon?
Well, first of all, let's talk about when we first landed there, and we got direct contact. And of course, I've gone into conflict with Oberg and the other debunkers and all. But other sources and ham operators have said yes, that there was the communication where they're here, they're watching us, they're on the rim of the crater, etc. What's the other half of your question there? I told you I was having a little trouble with this.
Did the aliens threaten us?
Okay, no. On Apollo 17, the last one where we physically went to the moon and landed on there, on the return back, once we had done our trans-Earth insertion burn on the backside and was leaving lunar orbit and headed towards Earth, the signal coming from the general area of the moon said, if I can phrase it exactly right, because I've seen it, read it, do not return, you're not ready. And now from what I found out, it's because we're still a very violent species, and we even proved that when we tried to send a nuclear bomb to explode on the moon, and the ETs had to take care of that. The same as they have done with numerous other launches. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised that the problem Korea is having trying to get their rockets to even get up to altitude are being zapped and knocked down there, too, because we're trying to get humanity into a little bit more friendly species. And, of course, they didn't, with all the bases and the mining and stuff that's going on the moon, you certainly don't want a species come there dropping nuclear bombs and attacking things. So, yeah, we were warned off. And I hope we've advanced enough that we're now going to be welcome to start making it. We haven't really made it yet, but if we get full disclosure and everyone else can start getting the governments and everyone to understand that this is not the way human beings really need to treat each other, we could accomplish so much in this planet by just working together.
Ken, was there an Apollo 18, 19, or 20 that some people believe was hidden?
Well, I know we had crews designated for 18, 19, and 20, and we had command modules in the assembly line, lunar modules in the assembly line, but primarily the command module, because Apollo 18, we used that command module to rendezvous with the Russian spacecraft. This was the Apollo-Soyuz program, and so that draws us down to only 19 and 20 left. Okay, I don't know where those, because obviously I left the program in 1980 and wound up going to work for the Grumman for Boeing and for 14 years as a 737 pilot, flight instructor. Anyway, so yeah, the 18 and 19 command module and as well lunar modules, unless somebody can show me that they have taken those and put them in museums in various states and places like that, the question comes to my mind, okay, what happened to the 18, 19, and 20 lunar modules as well as the 19 and 20 command modules? To my knowledge, I do not know what happened to those.
So, have you ever seen the Mona Lisa video that's supposedly from Apollo 20?
Yeah, I've seen some pictures and parts of it. Yeah, you're talking about the huge craft that's there, as well as the alien with the third eye.
Yes.
Yeah, the Rutledge material, a lot of it was done by a French artist. You know, so I know this for a fact that it was a recreation based on a reality. So, you know, that reality was probably taking not conventional, what we think of in the public as conventional spacecraft, up into a secret mission, but rather, you know, using their actual secret space program craft to go to the moon and, you know, take shots of these things. And I believe that really happened, and they actually have material from that craft. It's an old ancient, you know, Vimana-looking craft on the moon. Most people have seen that. It's as big as Manhattan and all that. This is just west of Tsiolkovsky crater, in a little grouping of craters, and it's right north of that. So if you get past this, you know, this big area that looks like some kind of basalt desert, it starts getting rough again to the west of that, and people can see that on a lunar image or so on. But the thing is, yes, the big giant craft is actually there. The Rutledge material is known to be fake, you know, but people don't understand why it's fake. There's a deep psychology of why he did that. Why did he recreate a fake video and all of these things to tell this story that actually happened? And, you know, one of those reasons is the same reason why NASA told this incredible story of something that did not actually happen the way they said it happened, if that makes sense. So there's a lot to the secret space program that is right in plain sight, you know. NASA is an absolute front for what they were actually doing on the moon and otherwise. A lot of the astronauts came back and, you know, had their meeting with the public and everything, and it looked like somebody had killed somebody, you know. I mean, they had this look on their face like somebody tortured their puppy, you know. And the reason why, you know, you got Armstrong who said, "Well, I don't want anything to do with this public stuff or whatever." There's a reason for that. None of the astronauts were allowed to talk about what they saw, and they weren't even briefed on what they would see, even though they you know, NASA knew. These higher-ups knew exactly what they'd find on the moon. They knew aliens were up there. They knew these things because they have much higher-powered telescopes than we do. They've got the Hubble that can take pictures, you know, of a gnat's ass on the moon.
So, Brett, Brett, are you saying then, because I think that's kind of important, that no astronaut going into space knew that extraterrestrials existed or were on the moon?
No, absolutely not. They were jet jocks. They were just for the thrill of being able to do it, you know.
We're just there to make it look good in reality. But it was dangerous as all get out. In fact, Apollo 13, some of the sources are talking about that the alien craft that followed them to the moon, looped around, come back, were considering having to bring them aboard the alien craft to bring them back safely, because that was an agreement for the goal for us to go to the moon and return safely. But thankfully, Grumman, the company I was with, that we helped build it, built it strong enough to be able to accomplish the other portion that we needed, to be able to have the additional engine firings that we had to do, et cetera, and enough environmental control, ECS system, that to keep them alive. But it was nip and tuck. Then, unfortunately, we got all the way back on Apollo 13. Anyway, I don't know if I lost that question.
Yeah, it was need to know. So they didn't need to know till they saw it.
That's right. And once they got back and found out about it, and a lot of them, most all of them have come clean and talked about being followed by a lighted craft, something like that, all the way to the moon and back. So and unfortunately, I'm saying that most all of the people I knew back in those days are no longer with us, because I was only 26, and most of them were 10, 15 years older than me. So, got to tell it while you're alive, or it's going to be lost forever.
Well, there's a very interesting thing. William Tompkins just came out and disclosed some things from TRW. You know, they were hired to actually do a lot of the systems for NASA, you know, for the missions. Okay. And one of them had to do with the S-band antenna, and you know the particular, you know, transmitting television signals and such back to NASA through Australia, the big giant dish antenna there.
You're talking about a DAC camera.
Yes, and then they send the signal to Goddard, and it would end up in a private room in TRW, where you know they were seeing the secret channel, not the same one the public was seeing. There are more frequencies than just one on the S-band antenna, and they were being utilized. The pictures and stuff that William Tompkins was talking about were of craft, you know, on the moon and other things, facilities or whatever you call it, lighted cities or whatnot. So these things that they were actually seeing and that he described were, of course, not made public, because they felt, because of the Brookings report and all that we do not need to know. So you know that's the thing, is that these people that have worked for NASA and have done all of these secret things, Tompkins has actually developed, you know, giant spacecraft and whatnot for the secret space program, according to his testimony. The thing is that yes, the astronauts went to the moon. You can see it on their faces.
Yep. And I was going to say that book that Tompkins wrote, Selected by Extraterrestrials, has been really fantastic, because he was with TRW, and he and I basically interfaced at the same time, only I didn't know him. He was, you know, a lot higher in the stratosphere as far as the pecking order goes, but then we were just kind of interesting that how close my career, my life, have brought me in very close to first-hand information, first-hand knowledge. I actually was in one of the staff meetings with Dr. Wernher von Braun before he passed away. So I was one of the young kids there, but for some reason I've been kept alive and got to be put in the right place at the right time, do the right thing, and that was to save an archive and make it available to the world. And so you guys get out there and keep doing your research.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you know, Tompkins and them developed the S-band antenna for the transmissions and all that. The lunar base that Ken always talks about in Tsiolkovsky Crater was actually filmed by Edgar Mitchell from the lunar module, not the command module where Stuart Roosa was. This was Apollo 14, and he filmed it with the data acquisition camera that was attached to the S-band antenna. So there were many ways that they could have filmed Tsiolkovsky Crater and seen what was actually in there, even from a distance, because Ken always says that he had to zoom into it. You know, so that's the thing, is that there is an overwhelming possibility that is true. So, you know, Ken tells that story with a lot of passion, you know, what Dr. Page says and all of that. And, you know, it's like he caught a glimpse of a secret moment in the space program. Going back to that question before, do, you know, employees ever see anything that's secret? yes, Ken did see something that was secret. He had a glimpse of that. And the next day, of course, it was gone, right?
It was, for a fact. Yeah.
Let me get to another question here from the Revolution Radio chat room. There's a lot of people out there who suspect that, and this, you may need your tinfoil hat on for this one, but who suspect that there were nuclear weapons blown up on the moon. Do you buy that story?
No. I mentioned earlier that there was an attempt to ignite a nuclear bomb on the moon, but the spacecraft carrying it to the moon was detonated it before it could get there, and this was from sources that Dr. Stephen Greer got from individuals that were involved in developing the rocket that was taking the nuclear bomb to the moon, and the fact that it did get destroyed by extraterrestrials on the way. They were not, part of it, if you understand that how, I'll say populated, how many different species as well as ourselves were on the moon, and just randomly taking a good shot at the moon is not the way to maintain relationships with what's going on. So the person's right. There was an attempt to do that, but it was foiled, and then we were told, "Don't come back. You're not ready yet," because obviously we're doing some stupid things.
Well, that also opened up the idea. Since they did that, now they have the right to interfere. Now they have the right to disable all of our nuclear weapons. And I believe that's exactly what happened.
Well, I know for a fact. I'm going to say, go ahead.
What would have been the point of bringing a nuclear weapon up to Mars? I mean, the moon, pardon me.
As I explained that earlier when I was talking about how the was testing to find out if the moon was actually hollow and having it as good of a powerful thumping of the moon, more than what it was like whenever you just have one of the ascent stages of the lunar modules come back and impact on the lunar surface, and then observe with the geological survey equipment that we'd leave on the moon to record the kind of impact on it. Well, a nuclear would probably set off some pretty good rings and things to it, but it might also damage what's inside.
That was definitely one of the reasons. The official, supposed reason was to test to see if there was water in the South Pole.
Yeah.
And or to see what kind of gases or whatever would fly up if something, if they could create an artificial impact.
Right.
So anyway, yes, extraordinarily unintelligent and stupid to send a nuke out into space, or to even light a match. If you know that that there's rivers of hydrogen flying off of the sun all day long, so if you were to light something up there, you could not only ignite that or whatever, but we wouldn't know the effects of that. Now, the scientists tell us that there's a vacuum in space, a total vacuum in space.
Not so.
Well, that's not completely true, because there are traces of oxygen. There's traces of hydrogen. If there's hydrogen, there's some kind of trace of oxygen. Now, the thing is that our science has been lying to us about a lot of things about space, because it coincides with them not releasing or wanting us to know that there's life out there at all. They say that they're good sports and they're looking for life or whatever. Since then, since all of us have been such a pain in the ass, they've come out and officially said that yes, there's water on Mars. Yes, there's traces of water on the moon and the ice and whatever. And then they'll say, well, yeah, so we believe that this is actually a biological organism that's trapped in this fossil that we got back from the moon or Mars or whatever. So the thing is about what they're telling us, it's too slow. People are not that stupid. We know there's life out there, and it's almost ridiculous and archaic, even today, to say that they're just looking for microbes.
That's where I'm talking about the tsunami of disclosure, and the fact that the only way that you're going to get the information out of the governments and get the truth is whenever they realize that 99% of the population is saying, "You've lied to us. Let's get the truth out. We've got enough evidence and information here. We've got people who have experienced this. There are actually some extraterrestrials here." If you get that much momentum going, there's not going to be any way that the governments can keep going on to hiding things from us, even in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I don't believe that they're that stupid. They haven't spent all that money, on rockets or something like that. If they were smart enough to brainwash the entire world with the Apollo program, with all of these front-type organizations while they were conducting secret, clandestine things behind our backs, if they were smart enough to pull that off, they definitely have a secret space program. There is definitely bases on the moon.
How come then it's been so difficult to get information from any of the astronauts, maybe instead of Dr. Edgar Mitchell, that there were all of these happenings and buildings on the moon? Why haven't more come out?
It's very simple. They took an oath. Most of them are military, and they took an oath. And I was actually told this recently by the guy that takes care of the SR-71 over in Mobile, Alabama, that they take an oath where they're not going to. It's a patriotic thing to them. If they were told to do something, they do that thing.
It's not just that, but it was the threat that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And that threat is not just something that can be done to you; it's your family, and et cetera. And so it's not worth it. The risk to your whole world of your family and to go in. Plus the fact is, Bret was saying, is your dedication and your loyalty to your country, and so trust me, you got enough not only brainwashing, but then enough threats in the right positions. And when you sign that non-disclosure, you're putting yourself online, and you're going to have to toe the mark.
Mm-hmm. Got a question from Dino coming in. Dino is saying, and he forgets the lady's name, he apologizes. The woman who was a math genius who calculated the first American man into space orbit, do you think she had extraterrestrial help?
Well, according to Tompkins, I would say yes. You need to read up on Tompkins and Selected by Extraterrestrials. It is amazing, and even a person like myself that was so involved in something, so much of it rings true. But then I got to say, is that really possible? Even the things that I knew, and I'm looking at the stuff that he's been involved in, what he's saying, and I'm saying, oh my God, that could be true. Even if 10%, and I'm just picking that number out, of the information that he provides in that book, which he said he was told to go ahead and just put it out there, then wow, where we really are with our space program, our secret space program, and our contact with sentient intelligent beings out in the universe. It's about time that it all comes together.
Yeah, it's my opinion that all of the geniuses that we've ever known, Tesla, Einstein, the lady that did the math formulas to go to, all of them had an incredible connection to what the Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphogenic field, the space that has all the answers, that's just flying around waiting for anyone to pick it out, and they were incredibly in tune to these completely different concepts that were considered unearthly, concepts that would come through, and they were actually not acceptable at first. None of them were ever accepted as some kind of gospel or something in scientific world. These were all theories or whatever, but some of those theories, most of those theories came from an extraterrestrial source, whether that would be directly from extraterrestrials or just the morphogenic extraterrestrial field.
Mm. Gentlemen, we only got about 4.5 minutes left with you tonight. This show has flown right by, and we missed a ton of stuff that we wanted to cover tonight. But in your time in doing this, Ken, and I know you've been researching this a long, long time, especially with your history at work, Do you feel slighted, to say the least, in regards to the way NASA has kept the public in the dark?
Quick answer is yes, but the better answer is when I applied for the regular astronaut program, and I had the letters from Neil Armstrong and Jack Swigert and Jim Irwin, all those recommending me. That was a shoe-in, and then being dropped from there. I mean, that was a big blow, and I was disappointed when I applied again for the shuttle program, and then they said that I had 3 bachelor's degrees, fully accredited, but they didn't want those. They didn't want jet jocks. They wanted people that had PhDs. And then when I got around to getting my first doctorate in theology from my own religion, they said I was too old, and that I did. I felt slighted, and then with the Mars One program, where they used me, and then wound up dropping me from the program about when they were getting ready to pick the final ones that were going to be training to go to Mars. Yeah, I felt slighted. Except now I'm looking at it for the different way, because, and it's only been in this past year that I've been able to research and get into the people that I've known and find out the truth about our secret space program and what's been going on. That I believe in a higher power, and I think that I know that if I had been selected on that first group, that I would have been on the Challenger that blew up on the first launch there. That and other times that I would have been taken out. That they're not through with me, and there's more that's being expected of me, and more opportunities coming my way. I may be 75, but then I figure I'm going to live more than 180, so I got a long ways to go, and so I don't feel quite so slighted. I feel like I have been saved for a more important mission.
Sounds great, my friend. Sounds great. And where do you take your research from here, Brett?
Well, you know, as you know, many times I felt like I've hit a wall. And the last time I felt like I hit a wall, Ken came along and Donna came along with, you know, with awesome images that I could use as control images.
And now Vance,
and I could, yeah. And then now there's a new guy, you know, that's who communicated, you know, with the Russians on the other side of the wall when the Berlin Wall was up. And I was over in the Army too, you know, and before the wall came down. And there was a certain mentality with that. And there was also clandestine activity because it was along the Danube River Valley where ancient extraterrestrials, you know, came into contact, taught us our language and everything else. And these Army guys were literally trained at Fort Meade to use Ouija boards to contact extraterrestrials, among other things. Remote viewing, the remote viewing program came out of Fort Meade that was later studied at SRI. If anyone's interested, they can read the Vance Davis story, and he told me personally that some of that was not true, especially the part of him being some kind of religious fanatic and him having to go over to Florida, you know, to meet extraterrestrials because God told him to do so. Yeah, so some of those things are not true, but take it for what it is. Some of the things he does talk about are the secret clandestine activities and his communication with extraterrestrials. And lately, I hope he comes out with this story and discusses it with everybody. But there are satellite dishes on the moon that we use as relay dishes to communicate with extraterrestrials. So that's where my research is going. I have also filed a Freedom of Information Act to get Ken's film that he was shown that he showed with Dr. Page that had the basin inside Tsiolkovsky crater. I knew exactly what mission it was. I know exactly, you know, what film it is and everything else. So I was able to ask for that, and I'm still waiting for the National Archives to respond.
Gentlemen, I have to call it the night. It is that time. Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Ken Johnston, Bret Sheppard. Been an absolute pleasure having you back on the show.
Well, thanks a lot for having me.
All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I got to wrap things up tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. And we will.
Yep, thank you.
We'll do it again. If you're listening in on the terrestrial radio side, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL blasting in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night on the program, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. It's my birthday show, man. I got no one booked. It's just me, you, the listener, whoever wants to call in. I'm doing a rarity. I'm opening up the lines tomorrow night. Anything you guys want to talk about, you call in. I'll give you the number right off the bat. Doesn't matter who calls in. We're going with it all. We'll see where it goes. Let's be a little rebellious. And there might be some fireball in the way as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I want to thank my team, Everett Thiemer and Eric Markham on the Encounter Online, Jolene Lammers, web design, Catherine James, social media, Bob Davis, our great intro voice, Kim Gandy, our Director of Business Management, Thomas McGowan in sales, Lana Scott, my personal secretary. Thank you so much for being with us on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Remember, everyone, do me a favor. Spread the word. Tell a friend, because together we will own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.